Okay. Day because it's exactly 12 o'clock midday. My name is Tshwane and welcome back to the current review episode number 55 on Central News. My name is Tshwane, sometimes known as the TT, sometimes known as Chairman. And this afternoon, we've got the pleasure of speaking with the chairperson of the Gauteng structure of ActionSA. And, we'll be talking about some of the developments that are happening there in Gauteng. The latest political shakeup in Tshwane. ActionSA has moved to sever ties with the DA and is pushing for a motion of no confidence against Mayor Brink. Tensions have been escalating between these former coalition partners. And today we sit down with ActionSA Gauteng Provincial Chairperson Funzi Ngubeni to unpack the current dynamics and what's at stake for the future of the municipality. ActionSA has recently announced its withdrawal from the coalition in Tshwane. Mr. Ngubeni, good day. Could you please walk us through the key reasons behind this decision?
Yeah, no, thank you very much, Tami, and greetings to your viewers as well. Look, I think the key reasons, we can summarize them into two. The first reason is it's political, and the second reason it's administrative or / governance, issues. Let me touch on the political part of it, Tami. I mean, so we come out of the national and provincial elections. And like any, self-respecting organization, we go into a introspection session. You can call it a post-mortem, and we sit as the highest decision-making body of the party, the Senate, and we look at our results, and we are obviously not happy, and we start making decisions based on our own wisdom. And one of that decision was that we are going to leave the multi-party charter, the one that was previously coined as Moonshot Pact. So we then decide that we will leave that. But the other important decision that came out of that meeting of the Senate was that the Senate must then go and engage with our structures, and also get from our own structures as to what went wrong. And so we start having those discussions. The president, Mr. Mashaba, the national chairperson, they go around the country to listen to our members and to hear what actually went wrong, politically engaging with them, and so forth. And in those discussions, particularly when they were in Gauteng, we started engaging and finding out from our own structures here in Gauteng that our members were saying to us the position that we have taken prior to the election of saying we will not work with this one, we will work with that one. They were saying we need to review that, and really, some of them were sharply, informing us that that would have really cost us some of the votes, because everybody was now saying we are a DA light. We only associate ourselves with the DA, but we don't want to work with other political parties like the ANC, the EFF, and so forth. And that then evolved to a discussion about Tshwane, which particularly here in Gauteng, our structures were saying to us, we need to consider our position in Tshwane. We need to look deep into whether are we really benefiting out of this coalition with the DA, and make decisions to part ways with them. And those sentiments were really unanimous in most of our meetings with our structures, and that's a political part of it, if you allow me.
Yes.
And as we're engaging with them, we also started to hear, particularly from our structures in Tshwane, that the governance and the administration of the city of Tshwane is failing them on the ground. They indicated the lack of service delivery, particularly in townships. They compared that with what is happening in the suburban areas, and they highlighted these issues to say, administratively, the leadership of this coalition is failing, and ActionSA is associated with that failure. And they indicated that that is another reason really why we should leave this coalition. So, in a nutshell, if you summarize really the key reasons why we have decided to leave this coalition, it's both political and administrative. And really, following those discussions, we didn't take them at face value. We didn't take them lightly. We decided that let's do an in-depth investigation on the performance of the city administration, and what we found out from that was really confirming what our structures were saying. In terms of the numbers, they confirmed that indeed, the city is not meeting their own targets in terms of refuse removals, in terms of turnaround time on water queries and electricity queries, and the city was failing in terms of really dealing with ESCOM debts and all those things. So it confirmed what our structures were saying, and as a Senate, then we took a decision to really cut our ties with the Democratic Alliance and stand on our own 2 feet, and then craft our way forward as an independent organization.
And you are also leading the charge to remove the mayor, Brink, through a motion of no confidence. What are the primary reasons for this motion to be, pushed by yourselves there in Tshwane?
Yes, I must also mention, Tammy, that the motion is sponsored by the ANC. It's not our motion, but we have resolved that we are going to support it. And one of the things I didn't mention, that really informed our political decision was the fact that as we were busy engaging our structures, talking about the 2024 elections, we came across information that the DA is actually negotiating with the ANC at a national level. And part of those discussions was that the government of national unity will also cascade it to the provinces, and it will form a coalition with the ANC at the provincial level. I think you know that it did eventually happened, but it didn't last because the relationship between the ANC and the DA at the province and those negotiations collapsed. But part of those discussions was that they were going to also form coalitions at a local level, meaning that they were going to remove ActionSA from Tshwane and form this grand coalition that they have at the local level as well. So as an independent political party doing our own analysis, we took a decision that we're not going to wait for the DA to remove us. We are going to take proactive steps ourselves to see how we can ensure that we stay in government in Tshwane. And luckily, the ANC also approached us, because when the DA approached them and started discussing all these matters with them, they didn't obviously agree at the provincial level and also at the local level. And the ANC approached us, and we started having a conversation about how we can work together in Tshwane. So we are supporting this motion that will be tabled tomorrow, and we'll see what happens.
And some critics say that removing the mayor there could further create instability in the municipality. How do you respond to these concerns as a political party?
Look, I think we appreciate that most of those critics are coming from our opponents. The DA has been quite forceful with their propaganda machine and also, mobilizing their own supporters to support CS Brink in this matter. Of course, DA is an independent political party. They've got their own strategies, and you can't fault them if they want to defend one of their own. Similarly, nobody should fault us for defending our own brand and defending our own position in the city of Tshwane. So those that will be on the other side will say we are destabilizing. But if you look at the facts on the table, you'll actually see that the city is not stable. Governance issues are not being adhered. The financial position of the city is not looking good. In fact, the liquidity of the city as we are speaking now, it's less than what is actually prescribed by National Treasury. The targets that the city will have set for itself in terms of performance of departments, they're not meeting those targets. And the track record of this coalition, it's not something that you can go and campaign about it, on the ground come 2026. So the city itself is not stable. The Auditor General has highlighted a number of performance issues with the city, including, ghost employees that are there. But also, if you look at, issues that relate to personnel, the relationship between the city and unions has never been great. In fact, ActionSA was the one that intervened and pushed for the mayor to negotiate with the workers for the strike to come to an end, which had lasted close to about 6 months and really took a lot from the finances of the city. So the city is not stable. What we are fighting for is to stabilize the city. We are obviously also aware that a party like the DA wants to remove us from government, wants to work with the ANC, but we are fighting back and we are reclaiming our position. And eventually, we are intending to ensure that this city can be able to deliver more, not only to the suburban areas, but also to deliver to the people who are living in township, in informal settlement, and ensure that this service delivery, gets to every resident of the city. So that is our ultimate aim, and we hope that we'll be able to achieve this, working with other partners that will be able to strike a deal with after this motion of no confidence has passed.
And if it does become indeed successful, the motion tomorrow, what are your plans, for the leadership of the city as ActionSA?
Look, Tammy, we don't want to preempt negotiations with the ANC. I think it will be naive and it will also be disrespectful to really preempt what ANC will put on the table. But what I can inform you is that there were preliminary discussions that we had, as I indicated, that ANC did approach us. And in those discussions, we did avail ourselves, to lead, to put a candidate for the mayoral position, and those discussions are ongoing. And I think once, the dust has settled, the motion has passed, then we'll sit around the table, not only with the ANC, but with other parties as well, because us and the ANC alone, we still do not have a majority in that council. So we'll have to sit with everyone and look at what is on the table, what everybody is bringing on the table, and then decide on the best way forward. For us, at the top of the agenda is really service delivery. It's making sure that we deliver on the promise to ensure that there's water in Hammanskraal before the end of this year. In fact, the target is October, to say that people of Hammanskraal that have not had water for the last 15 years will eventually see water coming out of their taps in October. We need to make sure that we collect refuse across the city, particularly in areas that this administration has neglected in the past. Informal settlements, like townships like Mamelodi and Soshanguve and Archersville, If you drive around now, you'll find a lot of dumping sites. We need to make sure that we focus on those. So we are bringing on the table, competent leaders, people that have, the interest of residents at heart, that will be able to deliver to all residents of Tshwane, not only a section of the residents of Tshwane.
And having said that, do you foresee a more effective governance framework emerging from this political shift, especially in addressing the pressing issues within the city, such as the one that you've spoken about now, the water in Hammanskraal?
Absolutely. We believe that if we are allowed to lead this administration, working with our partners, with the humbleness that we'll bring into the table, taking each and everyone's input seriously, consulting at every turn, we'll be able to resolve many of the challenges that are facing Tshwane. I think you'll know that the municipality owes Eskom, close to about 6.8 billion rand, and in fact, Eskom has taken the matter to court. We'll have to deal with those pressing issues immediately as a new administration. We'll have to engage with the provincial government to see where they can support us on issues that we are aligned on, particularly if you look at the new administration in the province. They are quite clear when it comes to bylaw enforcement, for example, taking over these hijacked buildings and converting them into affordable housing, student accommodation, and so forth. We will be working with them on those items. They are the government of Premier Panyaza Lesufi is also talking about taking care of the environment. They've actually started a new department that focuses only on taking care of the environment, and that is what we are passionate about, particularly, as I said, collecting refuse, and making sure that our communities are clean and habitable, and people are able to live and do business in those areas. We'll join hands with them. We'll obviously, look at working relations with the unions. We know that the municipalities owing them, a lot of money, increases that were supposed to be implemented 3 years ago, and so forth. So we'll have to sit around the table and look at what is affordable, what we can be able to defer to the next financial year, and so forth. All those things need to be included as part of the program of action of the new administration when they come in, including many others, like insourcing of security guard, a program that we have been working very hard to make sure that it happens, but at every turn being frustrated by our partners. So I think those are things that we'll have to work on, and making sure that at the end of it, it's the residents of Tshwane that must benefit from these changes, and they must not suffer from these political changes that must happen. We must still see water, on the taps. We must still be able to see refuse being collected. We must still be able to see, electricity being uninterrupted. And when it is interrupted, there must be a turnaround time that is reasonable, that we can be able to say our people still benefit from the work that we do. So we believe that it will be a positive change, and of course our opponents will want to frame it and say that we are bringing ANC through the back door. We are bringing EFF through the back door. The bottom line is that they themselves are working with the ANC. In fact, even today, I'm sure they are having conversation with the ANC, trying to convince them to withdraw the motion and so forth. And for us, we think that we'll work with everyone. We are not discounting that maybe in the future we can work with the DA again. But for now, we want to ensure that tomorrow we remove this mayor. We bring in the mayor that really will be able to take the program forward, and we are able to work with all parties that are in council that are interested on service delivery and working with us.
With the experience of that coalition there in Tshwane, and having broken down, What lessons can be drawn from that breakdown, and how will this affect future negotiations with potential political partners, really?
Look, I think the greatest lessons, and probably even those that are in coalition somewhere else with the DA, is that they need to be very careful with how the DA operate. There's a common denominator in all the coalitions that are falling apart, and that common denominator is the Democratic Alliance. In Johannesburg, we were in a coalition with them there. We tried everything in the book to save that coalition, even going to the extent of, offering to give away 2 positions that were held by ActionSA to the Patriotic Alliance, so that we can be able to save that coalition. Even when we did that, the DA still refused for us to give our own positions to the Patriotic Alliance to save that coalition, and they chose to actually collapse that administration that was led by Balance. If you look at what's happening in the Western Cape, they are fighting with the Freedom Front Plus. Even currently in the GNU, you can see that there are cracks that are now starting to show as a result of the arrogance of Helen Zille and some of the people that are working with her. So the lesson there is that we need parties to respect each other. It doesn't matter how many votes you are bringing into the table. All parties must have a voice, and that voice must be respected. We must be able to agree that the mayor cannot make decisions alone and impose them on the rest of the partners. We need to be able to trust other partners to bring their views and input into the discussions, and where it needs, we must take those inputs and run with them. So that's how coalition works. Coalition means that no party has won a majority, and it requires all of us to join hands and work together with the humbleness that we can be able to bring. And leaders themselves must leave their egos out and put the interest of the residents ahead of everything. That's how we think we'll be able to drive this coalition. We'll be able to ensure that stability is retained, and at the end of the day, the residents will be the one that benefits.
And in conclusion, what would you like to say to the people of Tshwane, who are ultimately going to be either the beneficiaries or the ones who suffer out of the decisions that are being made on their behalf in Tshwane? What message would you like to give them?
The message we want to leave them with is that ActionSA will do everything in its power to defend the interest of our residents. We will sacrifice where we need to sacrifice to ensure that stability is retained. We have stayed in this coalition even when we were not happy. We were abused, we were called names, even when we were raising issues about corruption in the DA administration. We were called names and we were accused that we are destabilizing. But later on, we were vindicated. And an example is in regards to the Edwin Sodi case in Hammanskraal, where this individual was given a contract illegally, and he benefited illegally from the city's tender processes. We raised this matter sharply. We were blocked at every turn, but eventually the matter was taken forward. It's now sitting with the SIU. People have been suspended and then fired. The mayor that was blocking our report from coming to council, Randall Williams, was removed. So at all times, we defend the interest of the residents. You can look at our track record. At all times, you will see that we are not getting into coalition to be friends with our partners. Yes, we need to work together, but when we pick up issues, we continuously raise them. And we also say to our partners, if ActionSA members or leaders in the coalition are found to be doing things wrong, we don't expect our partners to really defend us. We want them to raise these issues in the interest of our residents so that we can be able to be held accountable as well. So they must know, our residents, that at all times ActionSA will defend their interest and will push that service delivery must reach all residents of Tshwane, irrespective where they reside. In areas, in the townships, in the informal settlement, in the villages, all of us deserve the service delivery, and we